So it's like the Twilight Zone, but before the Twilight Zone, and it looks like it was filmed underwater.
Welcome to episode 264 of Nerdery and Murdering.
Big 264. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeff here with your Murdery. Welcome to another week, the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, the nerd and the murd. Um, we're having an unusual season of rain down here. Um, you know,
Up
we
here too.
we were in a drought, a severe drought for months. And man, yesterday it just I had to drive out to McAllen. And on the way back, it just started shit pouring down, and it went like all night long, all night. I mean, it was pretty bad storms. A lot of electrical. We actually had a lightning strike in the area.
Hmm.
So some people I know said that there was a lightning strike over on this one particular street, and I went, "Hey, that's where so and so live." And so I texted them. I said, "Hey, are y'all okay?" And the message I got was, well, I'm not home. Let me find out. And the lady I pinged, she pinged her husband. Well, he wasn't home either. And so I said, well, hey, I'm right around the corner from your house. Let me just go look. But luckily their house was fine. But yeah, I ran into the police chief and she said we had a lightning strike right in the middle of a neighborhood.
Oh wow. Well, hey,
Yeah.
at least it hit somebody's house. I've heard some horror stories about lightning hitting people's houses and just jacking up the electrics.
Yeah, I took so their house is on a little horseshoe kind of thing. Um, And I went around that whole horseshoe and I looked, I'm like, do I see any obvious signs of fire or anything like that? But no, everything seemed to be fine. But yeah, I mean, it was a rain. It was a rain.
Yeah, it's been
But
doing
yeah,
that up here too. It's crazy. It's the wettest summer I can remember.
it's just really unusual. And I mean, everybody's a little nervous because we had that flood a couple of years ago that was so bad.
Hmm.
So hopefully we're not going to get that this year. But anyway, so yesterday, as we're recording, Mr. Ziggy.
Mr.
Sorry,
Z,
inside joke there. Mr. Ziggy,
like senior PP.
yes, was interviewed on Two Geeks and a Microphone for
Yes.
Fire Sign. I was unfortunately not available, so I haven't heard it yet. How'd it go?
It went really well. I think it went like an hour and 45 minutes, which
Wow,
is,
nice.
yeah, odd for them, but we
Yeah,
kind of goofed around. And they were like, "Is Jeff out golfing?" I was like, "No, he actually had some business he had to take care of yesterday. I don't know
yeah,
what it was, but it was not golfing."
yeah. No, no. Actual business, actual business. I had to drive all the way in McAllen yesterday and I
So
was
sorry.
there for. That's all
I
right.
got that right. I was like, he had to go to McAllen for something.
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Had to had had to return a vacuum we bought
Uh-huh.
to this company we bought it from, and uh, these assholes are claiming we broke it, like we abused it, and I'm so upset over this thing.
It's a
I'm
vacuum cleaner.
Yeah, I know.
You abuse a vacuum cleaner
Yeah.
by running it across the carpet.
They're claiming that we probably had it caught somewhere and pulled on it, which pulled out the innards. And I said, no, your machine just stopped working. You've already repaired it once, and I have no confidence you repaired it well the first time. But I mean, the owner of this shop was on me from the second I got in, saying it's your fault, it's your fault. So I get to fight with this man, and I'm gonna enjoy this. This is this is something I get off on. I enjoy this shit because I'm being told he's the owner and he doesn't have a boss. And my comment to his assistant was, yeah, you have a license with somebody. I'll call them. So strip you of your little license and see how you do then, jackhole. So, but yeah, it was business I had to take care of. It was my
Jackhole.
only opportunity to get out to McAllen and do some business there that headed back, like I said, in the rain and everything. So anyway, I really don't have much of anything. You got anything big for us or ready
Yeah,
to step over?
I moved around the corner and I actually have a office instead of a laundry room.
Mm, mm, mm,
And I
mm.
have a wall instead of a background of the inner workings of my mind.
I
It's
think it's
behind me.
too organized for the inner workings of your mind.
I love this. This makes me so happy.
It's too organized. Well, let's see. I can see from what I can see one of my wedding pictures up on that wall.
Yes,
Uh, I'm looking and I do not see Darkwind up on that wall.
it's right here.
Jerk,
I could point to it.
jerk,
It was the wrong size for the hole, but it's up. I'm looking at it.
jerk.
I'll send you a video of the whole room. I'm not quite done with it. I'm still moving stuff around. But I wanted to get it set up for the interview yesterday because I was like, instead of a background, I want a background wall.
Mm, mm.
And I'm still playing with the lighting in here too. So if the lighting's a little off, sorry guys. I've just moved this week. So,
Hey, you like my Darth Vader rock out shirt?
oh, that's very nice.
Mm. Darth Vader with a double with a oh, on this collar. Darth Vader with a double playing double neck guitar.
Nice. Darth Vader rocking out.
Hey man, I love harddaddy.com. Boy, they need to sponsor us. I love their shirts. Their shirts are all wild and eh, obnoxious and
I like
that's like
obnoxious.
oh yeah, and I mean that's all I wear out on the golf course is obnoxious shirts. And it was funny because I played in a what was called a wacky golf tournament just a couple of weeks ago or something like that. And part of the rules was you had to wear wacky clothing. I
Mhm.
actually considered showing up in a solid polo t-shirt or solid polo shirt because
Yeah,
for
because
me
that'd
that
be
would be
wacky for
wacky.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, congrats on the new place.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm kind of loving it.
Good.
Kind of loving it.
All right. Well, it's your show.
Excellent. Today we're going to talk about science fiction theater.
Cool. Something I've never watched.
Uh, we have YouTube videos out there. I'm going to start by saying they're not the best quality. It's not because of the YouTube upload. I looked cleaned it up a little bit. I'll get into it a little bit, but it has to do with the way that they filmed it and the type of film that they used for it. It uh, it degrades.
Mm.
So it's nice that they got up some of them on digital copy because it can't degrade any further that way.
And I looked up some of it and I tried to watch some of it, but I was just like, no,
Yeah,
no, it's just
it's definitely a precursor to Twilight Zone, but it has a precursor vibe.
yeah, very very much so.
Mhm.
From the little bits I watched of it, absolutely. I mean, it's more like the Twilight Zone's younger, stupider cousin.
It is an American science fiction anthology television series that was produced by Ivan Tours and Maurice Ziv. Originally aired in syndication, it premiered on April 9th, 1955, and ended on February 9th, 1957, with a total of 78 episodes over the course of 2 seasons. From 55 to 57, science fiction theater semi-documentary television series explored the what ifs of modern science, placing an emphasis on science before fiction. Television viewers were treated to a variety of complex challenges from mental telepathy, robots, man eating ants, trees, man's first flight into space, and time travel. It was hosted by Truman Bradley, a radio TV announcer and 1940s film actor. Each episode featured stories that had an extrapolated scientific or pseudoscientific emphasis based on actual scientific data available in 1957. Typically, the stories related to life or work of scientists, engineers, inventors, and explorers. The program concentrated on such concepts as space flight, robots, telepathy. Um, the first season was filmed on 35 millimeter Eastman color negative, which was not considered the best color available for television, often fading over time due to vinegar deterioration. Syndication packages for a second season were renewed at an 80% retention ratio, borderline borderline for color production. In March of '56, producer Ivor Tors agreed with Frederick Ziv to produce the program in black and white to offset production expenses in return for a second. Like the syndicated Out There and Tales of Tomorrow anthology series before it, science fiction theater was a predecessor to later science fiction anthology series such as Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits, which we have discussed. The show had no fixed cast other than the host, although a number of actors appeared in multiple episodes in different roles. You had Michael Fox, Dick Foran, Marshall Thompson, Dabbs Greer, John Doucette, Arthur Franz, Whit Bissell, Judith Ames, and Bruce Bennett. The show also featured stars such as Basil Rathbone, Kenneth Tobey, Victor Jory, Gene Barry, DeForest Kelly, Phyllis Coates, Vincent Price, Edmund Gwynn, Ruth Hesse, and Gene Lockhart. Each episode was introduced by a stirring brass, strings, and woodwind fanfare, now established as having been composed by David Rose using the pen name Ray Llewellyn due to union and contractual restrictions at the time. While the camera panned over a scientific laboratory, then Truman Bradley showed a simple scientific experiment which was related to the topic for the week's show. Bradley's demonstrations were often staged, but yielded results consistent with the outcome of the true experiments. He was also careful to point out the story presented was fictional and it did not happen. So the whole scientific experiment part, it was only like 2 or 3 minutes, but it was like a little bit of Mr. Wizard, if you guys remember what Mr. Wizard was, where he would do like science experiments with kids. But he'd do this little science experiment and explain how it related to the episode beforehand. And then they play the episode. And they were only like 25 minutes long. So you figure the actual episode itself was 20 minutes. I watched this stuff in the 80s and it looked pretty old and dated back then. That was 40 years ago. Um, but it was science fiction on television. Um, and again, there was a dark period in time for basically science fiction nerds where we would get, of course, we had reruns of Star Trek and reruns of the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits and reruns of this. But they're in the early 80s, we wouldn't get any new science fiction series that wouldn't last more than a week. you know, they'd get I say a week. They wouldn't last longer than a season, and most of the
or
time,
two.
maybe.
So we've talked about this on the show before. So before Star Wars came out, that's the dark period we're talking about because you got past the 50s, a little bit into the 60s, but once you got into the 1970s, science fiction was basically dead. You weren't getting huge major releases or in the movie theater, on TV, or anything like that.
Yeah.
Star Wars came out and changed everything. Suddenly people are like,
Yes.
"Oh, hey, maybe there is room for sci-fi now." And
Yeah.
that was
There was
part
an
of the,
there was an explosion in the late 70s and early 80s.
yes, and that was part of the onus of Star Trek coming back into
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah.
Buck Rogers coming on TV,
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica, everything like that. That ushered in a new era. But Zig is absolutely correct. Most of the sci-fi generally didn't make it more than a season or
Yeah.
two. Buck
Even
Rogers,
after even after Star Wars, we'd get a
yes,
season or two of it and
right.
then nothing. And we'd have to
Buck
wait for the
Rogers
next
was
production.
2 seasons.
Mhm.
V that we covered in a massive three-way crossover was really kind of an outlier because you had the original miniseries, then the second miniseries, and then you had the actual TV series, which I think only lasted a season, maybe
Yeah,
two.
it was one
Um,
season.
Buck Rogers, as I said, was 2 seasons. Battlestar Galactica was it two?
It was 2 seasons. You
Two
had Battlestar
seasons,
Galactica and
and
then
then
Galactica
80.
8,
Yeah, and
1980.
then Galactica 80. Um, The Greatest American Hero I think that went three.
3 seasons. Yeah, Greatest American Hero actually did better than most things,
Yes.
but it wasn't that fantastical. They weren't spending a lot of money on special effects other than crane
No,
shots.
no, no, absolutely not. I mean, his flying alone in that was, they could do that very, very schlocky and tongue in cheek
Yeah,
because the way he flew, they could basically put him on a rolling bed that they could move around
yeah,
and hang him by wires. That was pretty
yep.
easy for him. You had things like The Powers of Matthew Starr, The Misfits of Science,
Hmm.
all these shows that they tried to kick out there, but nothing really stuck. The
Nothing
movies,
stuck.
on the other hand, had a big resurgence in sci-fi because
Hmm.
you had Star Wars, then you had Star Trek, and then Empire Strikes Back. Buck Rogers, the movie that came out. Then
The
you then
Battlestar
you
Galactica movie that was actually in theaters too.
Yes, that original one. I was losing something here.
Sorry.
No, 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 no. I just I had a bunch in my head that I was thinking about Blade Runner. You just you had this E.T. Um, you had this resurgence of science fiction movie theaters that were big hits. You
Yes,
had some terrible hits too. I mean, okay, Ice Pirates, fun movie.
I love that movie.
I do too. Fun movie. Didn't do well at the box office.
Yeah.
What was the one with the that had Molly Ringwald in it?
Oh,
Um,
Space Hunter: The
Space
Adventures of
Hunter.
the
Yeah,
Forbidden Zone, which
yeah.
was a great movie.
Fun movie. Didn't do well at the box office.
No.
Terminator. All these things that really came back in the movie theaters, but TV just didn't. TV wasn't able to capture it, and I don't know if just society as a whole was not ready for sci-fi to
Well,
hit their homes
I
or
think it
what.
also had something to do with the product. They couldn't do the high-end production on television week after week that they could in the movies. That's why
Yeah.
Greatest American Hero lasted longer than the others because they didn't really spend that much money on the effects. Whereas,
Hmm.
you either got a long series or really good special effects. You didn't get both.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it had to do with more about the costs of what they could do, and people would see it and go, "Well, I just saw Empire Strikes Back at the theaters. Now I'm watching this, and it's not that good."
Hmm.
You know, so it's a lot less like in Doctor Who in the '80s. People were willing to deal with, yeah, that is obviously a model shot across space, a space background. That's fine. We're okay with that. Um, but with like Battlestar Galactica or Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica actually did really, really well.
So did Buck
Um,
Rogers. The Buck
yeah,
Rogers didn't fail because of viewership. Buck Rogers failed because nobody could get along with Gilder Art.
yeah. And Battlestar Galactica failed because it's too expensive to make.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
made they made a the second season Galactica in 1980 was a scaled back version um that that was cheaper to produce and wasn't that good.
No, no, and it
Um,
came across that way. But anyway, we scrolled down the rabbit hole
yeah,
on
yeah.
that because be, just talking about this dark time, and this is the show the show Zig is talking about is well before this dark time because you still had
Yeah.
sci-fi popularity going
Yeah.
on.
And in the late 50s, people were, they had that willing suspension of disbelief. Besides, they didn't have those great big special effects. This is what they had. So they were willing to let some of that go. Um, the pilot episode was filmed in July of 1954. Bradley's on-screen duties were not filmed until September 11th of 54. Which also included off-screen narration for the pilot, and the second episode produced Yord, Yord, which did not go into production until December of 54. Bradley's duties included visits to the studio for hosting assignments, often filmed in batches of 2, 3, or 4 episodes in a single day. And on February 28th, 1955, for example, Herbert Strock directed Bradley for all the pickups and off-screen narrations for episodes 3, 4, and 5. Bradley returned to the studio 2 weeks later for pickups and off-screen narration for episodes 6 and 7. So basically, they would bring Bradley in to do 3 or 4 of these while they were filming the other stuff off camera. Or Bradley was basically the B-roll. Because of the limited budgets and intense production schedules of Zib episodic television shows, most of the scientific and not so scientific apparatus appear again and again as props with many different functions. A few of the electrical gadgets, such as the computerized chess game, were fake. Magnets inside the chess pieces with a technician under the table to move the pieces. One anti-gravity device featured in the episode Beyond and Yord was a primary device for a key scene in Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Posters, paintings, and electronic gadgets appeared that were used previously as props in producer Ivor Tor's The Magnetic Monster, Riders to the Stars, and GOG. The Bendix Aviation Corporation supplied computer equipment seen in the episode Survival in Box Canyon. Garco the robot used to publicize the Rocky Jones Space Ranger television series and featured prominently in the 1957 Disneyland episode. Was featured in the episode Justin. Time is Just a Place. The program never aired over a network. All 78 half-hour episodes were syndicated across the country in package deals of 39 episodes each. This meant the program could air on Saturday evenings over a television station in Kalamazoo, Michigan, while the program aired on Wednesday evening over a station in Newark, New Jersey. Every station featured regional sponsorship depending on the price tag. Truman Bradley was hired to film commercials for those local spots as inserts. The program was retitled Beyond the Limits for later syndication in the 1960s. From 1996 to 1998, science fiction theater aired weekly on Friday evenings over the Sci-Fi channel on cable TV. The picture quality was above average and the same provided for the PBS stations of the 1980s. While PBS aired the program uncut and unedited, Sci-Fi channel aired the episodes in the abbreviated form, 21 and a half minutes instead of 26 to make room for commercials. In the 1985 film Back to the Future, science fiction theater is mentioned as George McFly's favorite television program, from which Marty McFly gains the idea to dress up as an alien in order to scare George into asking his mother Lorraine to the school date. But Friday nights when science fiction theater comes on, it's my favorite program. And I get it, because if you wanted to watch a science fiction show in the dark times, you had to be there to see it, because they weren't going to rerun it because it wasn't going to last. And we all knew that. So if you missed it, you just missed it. And it might be years before you get a chance to see it, or ever. Misfits of Science, I missed a lot of those episodes, and I didn't get a chance to see them until the early 2000s. Which is sad. It's one of the reasons why I wasn't a big fan of Friends. I was like, man, she was better in Misfits of Science. We're going to talk about a couple of the episodes. We're going to talk about Time is Just a Place. It was directed by Jack Arnold. The story was by Jack Finney, and the teleplay was by Lee Berg. It aired on April 16th, 1955. A young couple discovers that their neighbors, who possess a sonic broom and many other technological advanced household items, are fugitives from the future, who have fled to the past to escape an oppressive government. Adapted by Jack Finney's short story, Such Interesting Neighbors, the cast was Don DeFore, Mary Windsor, Warren Stevens, and Peggy O'Connor. This is one of the ones we've got in our YouTube playlist. I would recommend everybody going and seeing it. It is not the truncated version. It's the long version, the 26-minute version. It's a really good piece of this series. It's probably one of the better ones. Again, as Jeffrey said, it's a little hit or miss. Do you want me to start it?
No, so, well, I lost you in there somewhere. I'm not sure where you were because everything dropped out for me. So
Well, let's go back
back
to Time is
back
Just
up
a
a little bit.
Place. Yeah.
Back up just a little bit.
Time is Just a Place is a good episode. It's indicative of the show itself. A young couple discovers that their neighbors who possess a sonic broom and many other technologically advanced household items are fugitives from the future who have fled to the past to escape an oppressive government. It was adapted from Jack Finney's short story, Such Interesting Neighbors. Um, the cast was Don DeFore, Marie Windsor, Warren Stevens, and Peggy O'Connor. Uh, it was directed by Jack Arnold, and it's a story by Jack Finney and a teleplay by Lee Berg. It was developed from Jack Finney's short story. This episode is kind of indicative of the good stuff that they did there in science fiction theater. It, as Jeffrey said, it is a little hit or miss because they did 78 episodes in 2 years. 1950s television was nuts. It got a little better in the 60s, a little better in the 70s. And now, yes, you want a little more, but a 15 episode run is not uncommon. Whereas, a full season in the 1950s was like 30 episodes, which is crazy. But yeah, this is one. It's in our YouTube playlist. You definitely should check it out. I included some other ones that I haven't talked about in our list as well, just because I thought they were cool and they were fairly decent quality. Again, the color's a little off. I'm sorry. That's just the nature of the beast. They're cleaned up as much as they could be. The next episode is Hour of Nightmare. It was directed by Henry S. Kessler. Story by, I believe this was also, story by and teleplay by Lou Houston. Um, Two top freelance photographers go to Mexico to photograph mysterious flying objects and find a dead alien. The cast is William Bishop, Lynn Barry, and Charles Evans. Now, this particular episode, um, how do I say it? It definitely has a little bit of intrigue, and it's very indicative of Area 51, except it takes place in Mexico. Um, and they do find a dead alien, and it's there's a little conspiracy, a little bit of cover up going on. It's a really good one. It has almost an X Files feel, but 40 years or 30 years earlier. It's kind of cool. Or no, I guess it would be 40 years early because X Files was in the 90s. Definitely one you want to check out. The special effects of the flying saucers and the alien are actually pretty decent for 1955. The next one is Operation Flypaper. It was directed by Eddie Davis. The story and teleplay were by Doris Gilbert, and it aired on January 14th, 1956. A group of scientists from many disciplines are met in secret conclaves to develop a method to mine the Earth's oceans. But as they begin to share their theories and devices, the materials suddenly vanish. They notice that not only equipment and files are gone, but time has also disappeared. A brief conversation begun at 11 p.m. ends more than an hour later. With no awareness of the intervening time having passed, the spy has found a way to move among the scientists at will and take what he wants without anyone perceiving him. In an effort to capture this thief, Operation Flypaper is organized. A false laboratory is outfitted with hidden cameras and microphones, and the technicians begin simulated work on another piece of vital equipment. As this room is observed, the occupants suddenly freeze in mid-stride. A man enters with a device that can put subjects into total sleep with no after effects and begins to steal the equipment. The observers reveal he is being watched, and in a rage, he shatters his machine and is captured. The man was a brilliant but paranoid scientist who wanted to be recognized for contributions to science and was stealing mining ideas and equipment he would later invent. Ironically, his sleep machine, now totally destroyed, would have ensured his place in scientific history as the greatest method of surgical anesthesia ever invented. This had Vincent Price, George Eldridge, John Eldridge, Dabbs Greer, and Christine Miller. Vincent Price is really good in this. Very young Vincent Price, too. It's nice to see him in color because usually when you see him this young, he's in black and white. The final episode I want to talk about is The Missing Wave Band. It was directed by John Hertzberg, story by Ivan Tours, and a teleplay by Lou Houston. It aired in June 16th, 1956. A scientist builds a transmitter that operates in a never before attained frequency band. Using the new device, he and his colleagues receive new scientific information from a voice that refuses to identify itself or its country of origin. The cast was Dick Friends, Stafford Rep, Gene Roth, and Michael Fox. Um, Michael Fox, by the way, is the reason why Michael J. Fox had to change his name because his name is Michael Fox. He does not have a middle name, or if he does, it doesn't start with J. Um, but he was because back in the day, if you had the same name as somebody who was on the rolls of Actors Equity, you had to change your name. It's the same reason David Tennant is David Tennant instead of David McDonald. But that's about it for science fiction theater. I have added those episodes specifically because I cherry picked some. Um,
Hmm.
Not just because they're good episodes, but because they're good quality
Yeah.
to view.
Yeah.
There's some other ones out there that you might be able to find. These episodes were a little bit better, and they're in our YouTube playlist. You should check them out.
Cool.
The acting is great. The writing is good. The special effects could be better, but again, it's television in the 1950s. This was as good as they could get. They were on the bleeding edge of this stuff at the time, which is why they used a slightly less expensive form of color uh, technology because they could have used a higher end, but it afforded them the ability to do as much hire better actors, pay more for the writers, and do the best special effects they could do.
Mm.
So I mean, it was
Awesome.
it was a choice. Thank
Awesome.
you, sir.
Check those out. Definitely check those out. Check out our YouTube. Got lots of stuff on there from our playlist. You can some of our episodes have full episodes or movies or things like that of things that we've gotten through or that
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about that Zig has talked about. So do check it out. See what you think about it. And it's like I said, I couldn't really get through them. I attempted to kind of watch some of them, but yeah, the quality is just so bad. I was just like,
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah,
bail out a little bit.
yeah. The
Speaking
color
of
is the color's off. Uh
speaking of quality,
huh.
I'm gonna take us out of the episode for just a second.
Okay,
So
let's talk quality.
all of our all of our regular listeners know that we have a friend named Chuck that golfs with me. I talk to him all the time, and he's one of our little end sequences, and so people know who Chuck is, and I get comments
Yes.
from listeners all the time about Chuck. I found out this week Chuck, who is older than me,
Uh
okay,
huh.
he's older than both of us, not by much, but he is older
Yeah.
than both of us. He has never seen a single Star Wars.
That actually does surprise me because I Chuck Chuck is a multicultural dude,
Yes,
but he
yes,
did go to high school in Ohio. So
yeah. Well, but still,
he,
Ohio. Hello.
how
Ohio's in the
how
U.S.
how did
Star
he
Wars
miss
was
Star
big.
Wars? Yeah.
Yes,
How did
yeah.
he miss Star Wars in the 70s?
To the point where he told me that the other day that he had never seen Star Wars, and I said, "You understand, we're no longer friends." Um, so
Chuck watch Star Wars.
I've been getting on to him so much. I mean, because it's like I told him, I said, are you kidding me? Star Wars is like a Christmas movie for us. We turn it on every Christmas morning and we watch a marathon all the time. I said, you have got to watch it. It came about because I was talking about that next year is the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, which
Mhm.
boggles my mind that it's the 50th anniversary. But yeah, no, and then he said that he doesn't watch Star Wars. So he's not my friend anymore and he's not allowed to listen to the show. So Chuck, you no longer get to use our show to go to sleep. So go away.
Yeah, Chuck, if you want to listen to our show to go to sleep, you can. I'll I I will watch Star Wars with you.
I'll watch Star Wars with him. He can jolly well come over and watch it because you know what? Star Wars to me is like Johnny Cash. If you don't like Star Wars, you can go fuck yourself.
You don't like Star Wars, you can go fuck yourself. I like Star Wars. I don't like it as much as Star Trek, but that's a conversation for a different nerdery
Ah,
topic.
that's an age old debate. It's that debate is not near as controversial, I think is the word I'm
Vitriolic.
looking for.
Yeah.
Yes. than it used to be, because used to be you could not be a Star Wars and a Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
heresy.
in nerd circles, you could kind of get you could get ostracized from the
Yeah,
from the comic book shop for
yeah,
shit
that
like
was
that.
that was absolute heresy. Now,
Hmm.
nah, not so much.
Yeah,
No, you can like both. The heresy is Picard over Kirk. You know, which side of that fence you're on. So,
Cisco.
uh, right, and some people are going to go Cisco. I disagree with that because I wasn't a big fan of Voyager. Um, but
DS9.
uh, correct. But anyway, no, I thought it was funny, and I had to call out Chuck right here because
Okay, right on. Love you,
because I,
Chuck.
I I told him just come over to the house. I will boot it up on the big screen.
Hmm. Make some
Ha
popcorn.
happily, happily, and just watch it like a giddy child because that's how I am with Star Wars. Anyway, so bygones, move past it.
Sitting on the front row in the Ridgely Theater, watching the ship come over my head.
Mm,
I was like not quite four, and it was the most fascinating thing I'd ever seen in my life.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, so with that, I will step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For today, I got my information off Wikipedia, the FBI website, the Washington Post, the Baltimore Sun, Oxygen, Biography, Murderpedia, CBS News, and the Charlie Project. So we are going back to September of 1986.
1986.
We're going to start off in a quiet neighborhood in Kensington, Maryland. There are children outside playing, families going about their day. Nothing seems unusual. Then a 6-year-old girl disappears. Her name was Michelle Dorr. One moment she's there, the next she's gone. And searches began immediately, as you would expect. Neighbors looked and police looked. Family members, were praying for answers. But unfortunately, days later, all those hopes were shattered because Michelle's body was discovered. The case itself, of course, it horrified the community. But the investigators didn't have any suspect. There wasn't any clear motive, and there were very few answers. And then 6 years later, it happened again, but this time not another child. This was a young woman who was 23-year-old Laura Hotelling. She vanished from one of Maryland's wealthiest communities. And once again, investigators were saying, asking the same thing. What happened? Who's doing this? And at first, both cases seemed completely unrelated, different victims, different ages, different circumstances, different parts of Maryland. But eventually, investigators would discover a connection. And this connection is what would lead them to one of the strangest killers they would ever encounter. This was a man who gave confessions that seemed to blur the line between truth and fantasy. He's someone who claimed responsibility for crimes that may never fully be understood. And sometimes he seemed more interested in becoming a monster than hiding from one. So this is the story of Hadden Clark.
Hadden Clark.
We're back on our A to Z journey across America, and last time we talked about Maine, so now we're going into Maryland. I have my alphabet right. Maryland's entry is unlike anything we've covered before because most serial killer investigations follow a similar pattern. Investigators identify victims, they collect evidence, and a suspect will emerge, and then the truth really slowly kind of comes into focus. The case
Well,
of
yeah,
Hadden,
serial killers usually go for a specific type too.
yes, they typically have an MO. They have a type of person that they abduct and kill, or just kill. Certain age range, certain sex, sometimes even certain hair color. We've had that.
Hmm.
But the case of Hadden Clark is very different because even after he was convicted, investigators continued asking questions, not about whether he committed murder, because we know he did. The question was how much of what he said could actually be believed. Because Hadden Clark became very well known for very shocking claims. Some were proven true, some could never be verified, and some were really probably nothing more than him trying to gain attention. The uncertainty of this case followed it for decades. But before he confessed and before all the investigations and before all the headlines, we had Michelle Dorr, the little girl that I talked about. Her murder would become the first one that was definitively linked to Hadden Clark. Um, Hadden Clark was born in July of 31 in 1952 in Troy, New York. He wasn't born in Maryland, but it was in Maryland that he would commit the murders that ultimately made him infamous. By nearly every account, his childhood was difficult. We've heard this so many times. Family members later described a home that was marked by instability, emotional struggles, and conflict. And as he grew older, Clark drifted through various jobs. He struggled to maintain stability in his life. He often worked as a cook, a gardener, a handyman. To acquaintances, he seemed very quiet and awkward, sometimes socially withdrawn, sometimes eccentric, but honestly, largely very unforgettable. We've seen serial killers like that too. They can just blend in. They just blend into society, and that's how Hadden Clark kind of was. And that was the first thing that really later disturbed investigators because there was very little about Hadden Clark that immediately suggested he would become a murderer. But beneath everything, this is where serious psychological issues were happening, and these were the issues that would erupt into violence. And so in 1986, it's where that violence claimed the first victim, Michelle Dorr, uh, again, who was playing outside of her home in Kensington, and in just a very ordinary day. This was the kind of day parents experience thousands of times. Children riding bikes, playing in yards, running between friends' houses. Nothing about it suggested tragedy was approaching. I'm going to step out real quick and go back into the 1980s. Um, in the 1980s, there was a massive, and I mean massive, swath of us that would leave home and be gone all day
All day.
with no word of where you were, no word of what you were doing, and then come
Building
home
ramps,
later.
jumping bikes over fucking dangerous things,
Well, anything, anything. We did stupid stuff in the 80s
walking up the creek.
just because it was there. And because we had this freedom, because we were really the first generation of mass latchkey kids.
Hmm.
We were the first generation where the majority of the uh, homes that had a father and a mother both worked, both were outside the home, and so kids kind of roam free. Now, I I remember very specifically they started the program in Wichita Falls where they had these red hands that you would put up in houses.
Red hands. Yeah, they were all
And
over.
and the red hand, you were told as a kid, meant you could smooth walk in that front door without question if you were in danger. It was a
Hmm.
safe house you could go to. Those red hands had to be they couldn't just put a red hand up in the window. It was very specific. They had to be, I
You
think they
got it
had to
from the
be
fire department or the police department,
something
right?
like that. So it wasn't just a random individual. But that was the society. In the summertime, in between school sessions, school years, we would leave the house in the morning sometime, go hang out with our friends, riding bikes, doing whatever, disappear for the day, drink water out of water hoses when we needed some water. And then when the street lights came on, you were expected to be home.
Hmm.
That was pretty much everybody in our generation. That's how we
We,
lived.
we were so forgotten that the news had to tell parents, "Do you know where children are?"
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and I tell that to people, and they're like, "That's not true." And
Oh yeah, it
pull
absolutely is.
up
It
the
absolutely
video. I'm
is.
like, this was on every day in the summer at 10
Right.
o'clock.
And it wasn't that parents in the 80s were bad. It's not that they were um it's not that they were unavailable. This was just how it was.
Yeah,
Parents were gone for the day they were working. Kids were gone for the day. That was the whole thing. When the streetlight came on, you were expected to be home because there was enough danger out there that parents wanted their kids home before dark because the streetlights came on well before dark.
yeah.
But I completely lost my point where I was getting to that. Um, there was danger out there, but it wasn't so much in your face danger that it worried parents enough that we didn't have latchkey kids. Because like I said, we were the largest generation of latchkey kids. Most of us went to school, came home by ourselves, did our homework because we were told that's what we needed to do when we got home. And then we could go out and play. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have
Nope.
radios. We didn't have anything to
Nope.
tie us
You
back
wanted to know
home.
where everybody was, go see where the pile of bikes was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because you'd have one friend who had like a weird video game or something, and you'd all go over there and play it.
Or something, or you were playing in a local park
Yeah.
somewhere, riding all over the
Yeah.
neighborhoods.
Setting up ramps with milk cartons and two befores and jumping over stuff, including your friend.
Right. But I wanted to paint that picture to talk about where we are. 1986 here. Like I said, children riding bikes around the neighborhood, playing in
Mhm.
yards, running between friends' houses. This was how it was. Parents were just not paying careful attention to everything that was out there. I'm not saying that Michelle's parents did anything wrong here. I just wanted to paint the picture of how the 80s were. Stranger Things did a very good job of
Yep.
showing how the 80s were. We
Yeah.
just went
Yeah.
we just went and we were out. And I think this
Feral.
does kind of play in sometimes feral. I do think this plays a little bit into Michelle Dorr's disappearance because of exactly what I'm talking about, running between friends' houses, running throughout the neighborhood. But in the 80s, none of this suggested that tragedy was about to happen. None of it.
Nope.
This was commonplace. And then Michelle disappeared. When her family realized she was missing, panic set in. Neighbors began searching. The police were called. They responded. Volunteers started combing the area looking for any signs. And then hours passed, and then days. And then eventually, as I said, her body was found. It was discovered in a wooden area. The 6-year-old had been murdered. And investigators had nothing to work with. There was no obvious suspect. There was no clear motive, no evidence pointing towards a killer. And so it became a very heartbreaking unsolved murder. And then years passed. Leads would come in. Tips were always investigated, but the case really remained cold. For Michelle's family, life just kind of moved forward without any answer. There were birthdays of her that passed, holidays that came and went, but the question remained the same. Who killed Michelle Dorr? At the time, no one knew that the man responsible was actually living among them. He was working ordinary jobs, moving through life unnoticed, and for years he would remain exactly that, unnoticed. And one of the reasons that Hadden Clark remained off investigators' radar wasn't because he was behaving like the serial killers people imagined. There wasn't any obvious patterns. He wasn't taunting the public. He wasn't attempting to get notoriety. Much of his life at this point really kind of seemed very aimless. He worked very odd jobs. He moved frequently and he drifted from place to place. As I said, people that described him as strange or eccentric, but being strange is not illegal, and strange does not make someone a murder suspect. Me,
Hi.
I'm strange. Um, so while investigators were continuing the search, Hadden Clark just continued living his life.
Mhm.
As the years went by and the case grew colder, and then, as I said, 6 years later, another Maryland woman disappeared. And that was, a 23-year-old woman. She was from one of the wealthiest communities in the state. And this is where her disappearance is what led investigators face to face with Hadden Clark. So on October 27th, 1992, Laura Hotelling vanished from Bethesda, Maryland. She came from a very prominent family, and she had plans, friends, a future, and then she was simply gone. Investigators considered the possibility that she left voluntarily, as they will. But as the days passed, that explanation really kind of became hard to believe because Laura had not packed for a trip. She hadn't contacted friends or family, and there was no indication that she just intended to disappear. But as detectives retraced her final known movements, that's where they uncovered a very troubling connection. There was a handyman and gardener who had worked for the Hotelling family, and this was Hadden Clark. At first, he was simply one of the many people that investigators interviewed, but the more they looked at him, the more suspicious things became. Um, Clark began attracting attention in the investigation for all the wrong reasons. He worked for the hoteling family as gardener and handyman, and that alone didn't make him a suspect. But detectives kind of found themselves keeping to return to him repeatedly because his behavior was unusual. And here's the key: his statements were changing. That's a big red flag. Details of his movements shifted over time, and the more investigators spoke with him, they really kind of became more uncomfortable with his answers. And it wasn't a single piece of evidence that suddenly solved the case. Instead, the suspicion slowly began to focus on Clark as detectives really kind of tried to work to understand what happened to Laura. Eventually, that suspicion led investigators to look at Clark far more closely than anyone had before. And then as pressures began to mount, Clark began talking. And once he started talking, the case took a turn no one expected. He eventually admitted to killing Laura, and according to investigators, he claimed that the encounter began after an argument. The details varied somewhat depending on when he told the story, but the result remained the same. Laura was dead, and he later led authorities to evidence connected to the crime, helping to confirm his involvement. For Laura's family, the confession ended months of uncertainty, but it opened another door because during interviews and discussions with investigators, Clark began talking about another murder, one that happened years earlier, and this is one investigators had given up on solving, and that was Michelle Dorr. At first, investigators were very skeptical because Clark had already demonstrated a tendency toward very bizarre behavior and unusual claims. But as he began discussing Michelle's murder, something changed. He knew details that were never publicly released, details only the killer could have known. So investigators kind of leaned forward and they're now listening very carefully. He admitted that in '86, he abducted Michelle from her neighborhood in Kensington. And then the confession itself really stunned investigators because for more than 6 years, that case had remained unsolved. And then out of nowhere, they finally had an answer. And this was one of the biggest breaks in a Maryland cold case in years. Um, this was relief for her family, but it couldn't undo what happened. No confession is going to bring Michelle back. But they had a confession. And most serial killer cases become clearer once a confession is obtained. But Hadden Clark's became stranger. He began making additional claims. He hinted at other murders, other victims, other crimes committed in different places. And investigators believe that there might be some truth buried within the statements, but others were believing that Hadden Clark just enjoyed the attention and was exaggerating his role in unsolved crimes. And that's kind of a mystery that lingers to this day. We don't really know if Michelle Dorr and Laura Hotelling were his only victims. All we do know is that they were the two that investigators could definitively
So,
prove.
so we do know that he actually did kill him. He wasn't just seeking attention.
Oh,
Those
absolutely.
two.
He knew details of those two that only the killer would have known. They never
Okay.
released to the public. So those are the only ones they had definitive evidence on. Because once he confessed to those murders, they had the answers they'd been missing for years. And for both families, the Hotelling and the Dorr family, it, it brought an end, a painful end to their uncertainty, um, because the man had finally been identified. And Clark had ultimately pleaded guilty to Laura's murder and was connected in connection with Michelle's as well, and got multiple prison sentences, assuring that he was never going to leave prison again. And once he was convicted, most times, there we are. We're at the end of the case. He's in prison. That's where he lived or he died, or she lived or died. But for Hadden Clark, this was just kind of the beginning of his mystery. Once he was in prison, he began talking a lot. The more he talked, the stranger everything became because of these numerous claims about other murders. Some involved missing children, some involved unsolved homicides, and some went far beyond Maryland. And so investigators were put in a very uncomfortable position. They couldn't simply ignore him
Yeah, because
because,
he killed two people.
right, and many people doubted his confession to Michelle Dorr at first, but that confession turned out to be true. So every time he made a new claim, they had to examine it. They had to check every statement and they had to check every possible lead. All this had to be considered. The problem was that most of Clark's stories could never be verified. Some appeared to contradict facts, while others contained details that were very probable. Um, and then others were obvious that he was just trying to attract a question. And that created questions that investigators honestly still debate today on him. Was Hadden Clark revealing additional crimes, or was he just building a mythology around himself?
Mhm.
And one of the reasons that Clark became such a notorious figure was the shocking nature of some of his claims. Some of his claims alleged involved cannibalism. Other statements suggested he had consumed parts of victims after killing them. These were claims that got a lot of media attention,
Well,
but
yeah.
investigators were never fully able to verify them. As a result, a lot of experts believe portions of his stories were attempts to shock people and increase his notoriety. But others argue that dismissing everything he said would be very dangerous, given that he had already confessed truthfully to murders investigators had struggled to solve. And that's the challenge with Hadden Clark. The truth and fantasy always seem to tangle together. Um, Another aspect of the case that attracted attention was his unusual behavior. He frequently cross-dressed and sometimes appeared in public wearing women's clothing. Media coverage often focused very heavily on this aspect of his life. Today, though, investigators and criminologists really kind of view that focus as somewhat misplaced because cross-dressing does not make you violent.
No.
Murder made Clark violent.
Yes.
you know so that's kind of a weird one that they have out there, but the media grabbed onto it. Oh my God, the cross-dressing
Well, yeah, because
cannibal.
it's sensationalism. A
Yes,
cross-dressing
oh my
cannibal.
God,
They could
yellow
sell that story.
yellow journalism at its best.
Oh my God. Well,
um
I always say reporters are a truly lazy group of people, which is a horrible thing to say, but
some can
yeah.
some can be, but yeah, so they really focused on this, and it just really increased the viewpoint that he was just a very strange serial killer,
Hmm.
and really how much was attributed to him.
A troubled
It,
man.
he was very troubled. His behavior was unusual and very highly visible, and so it became part of his public image that surrounded the case. And in really, in many ways, it was this image that made him one of the most bizarre figures in modern true crime. He remains incarcerated to this day. He's still serving his sentences. He's in his 70s. But more than 3 decades after the murders, the questions still linger. Were there additional victims? Did he tell the truth about other crimes? Or did he just spend years mixing fact and fiction together until investigators didn't know how to separate them? And those are the questions that remain unanswered.
It
When
is
he was,
distinctly possible that he can't tell the difference.
it's very possible. I mean, he's one of those that we talked about. We need to make sure he's being studied.
Yes. 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 We need to know what broke this dude.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
and again, kid, we said it once, we said it before. If you don't want to make a serial killer, don't
Don't beat your
beat your
kids.
kids. Do not beat your kids.
I didn't see any evidence that he was abused. There was a lot of instability in his home, but I didn't see any evidence of abuse with him. He's just one of these really, really weird ones that are out there because his notoriety is very different than the actual facts that we know. And so there's a lot of questions that remain unanswered with Hadden Clark. But honestly, where we are here, this is our A to Z journey, and we reached Maryland. The case of Hadden Clark, it stands apart from a lot of serial killers we've covered, not because of the number of victims or any elaborate criminal enterprise, but really because certainty is very difficult to find in his case.
Hmm. We are certain of the two, but that's
We
about
know
it.
Michelle Dorr was murdered, and we know that Laura Hotelling was murdered. We know that Hadden Clark was responsible. Beyond that, the picture is very unclear. Somewhere between confession and fantasy, between truth and attention seeking, and between fact and fiction, there's the truth somewhere in there. Hadden Clark created a mystery that continues to this day, long after his convictions. And that's really kind of the most, I think to me, the most unsettling part of this case. Not the things that we know, but the things we may never know. And that's the story of Hadden Clark.
Well, thanks, sir.
I
That
thought it
was
was very
fascinating.
unusual one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've run across some very cool ones in this, and it's funny as as I go to each state, the first thing I do is I go to Google, in X state, list me out the serial killers, and Sitting here at episode 264, I have to go, done it, done it,
Done it,
done it,
done it,
done it.
done it. Did I
Haven't
do
done
that
that
one?
one.
And you
Yeah,
have to go back and look.
yeah. Covered a lot. And so it was very interesting to find that I hadn't covered Hadden Clark. I knew about him. I'd known about his notoriety because unfortunately, I read a lot of this stuff. I'm flagged on some government watch list somewhere for all the shit that I study. Um, I know I am, you know.
I, I mean, maybe me too, because when I'm going to make the YouTube playlist, I always look up the spelling of names. It's like, oh yeah, like oh there it is. Okay,
But that's my story for this week.
thank you, sir.
Thanks for sitting with me on that one. Like I said, I found that one very fascinating, and I'm loving this A to Z journey
Yeah,
going through it. I've gotten comments from some listeners. They're really enjoying the series, so I will definitely keep going through it. God, are we
sweet.
even halfway through right now? Where let's see, we just hit Maryland. I had to make a list.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're about halfway through because next time we will be in Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. And it's funny because by the time we get to Texas, I've covered several Texas ones. I'm gonna have to go. Done it, done it,
Done
done
it,
it,
done it,
done it,
done it,
done it.
done it, done it.
I've got I've
Ellen.
got I've got
Oh, you know what?
Texas.
You've never covered Henry Lee Lucas.
I have not. I have not. That might be one. We'll have to see. I need to look at what my options are because I like to find the really kind of strange and unusual ones. I think those are really cool. So anyway, that will take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find more about us on nerdyermurdery.com. That's our hub, our website for everything about us. You'll find the pictures on our website. You'll find links to our books, which Zig has Fire Sign, the an Elvish War Chronicle. There we go, not Chronicle. And then you will also find the link to prime numbers and the Darkwind Paradox. Zig is especially in love with the Darkwind Paradox because he's all over it. There you go.
It's close. I don't actually have a physical copy of Fire Sign.
How do you not? You didn't
Well,
even
it
get an
was like
author's
I've
proof?
read it. I have everything I need, so I never ordered an author's
I've read mine,
copy.
but you better damn well believe I have the very first copy of my books.
Someone's like, you should probably get one of those, and I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess you're right. I
You
probably
should
ought to.
have the first copy because honestly, you need to see what it looks like in print. You need to see what it looks like before you
I
put it out to the
have seen
world.
it in print. My boss he was pissed because I told him about the Chronicle debacle, and he ordered it right then so he could get a Chronicle, and he ended up getting Chronicle. As far as I
That
know, the only person who got the misprint is
is
Mike
is
Shanks.
yeah, Mike Shanks. No, you need to see it before it goes to anybody else. I
Well, I
I
got pictures of it.
I
I
have
mean,
mine in picture. I have mine in picture frames, man. They're
yeah, I
they're
think I'll put it on my shelf. Put it next to
they're
Edgar Rice Burroughs.
yeah,
And
they're
you.
here.
Oh,
They're
by the
here.
way, you're sitting right next to Edgar Rice Burroughs and James O'Barr.
Cool.
That's pretty good company, dude.
I can live with that. I'm actually Chuck is helping me work on this. We're gonna take some of Prime Numbers and the Darkwing Paradox and donate it to our local library and try to do an author day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I may
Speak.
end up doing that. The Burleson Public Library, my friend Amy works down there. She's a librarian, and she got me to do a like a murder mystery thing where I'm playing Poseidon from Percy Jackson in July,
Oh, uh,
and
uh,
we may end up doing. I may end up doing some author stuff too, but I'm gonna need to order some books.
um, is it the Reading Rabbit? You need to contact the Reading Rabbit. The Reading Rabbit Bookshop.
Oh
It's
yeah,
in
yeah,
a
they're
it.
they're they're here.
Yes, I know. They do author profiles.
Oh, okay.
Contact them. It's the readingrabbit.com. My mom told me about them and I did contact them and I said, hey, next time I'm in DFW and I have some extra time, I'd love to do one of those. And they said, yeah, just let them know.
Yeah, bro.
But the Reading Rabbit Bookshop, you need to contact them because they will do an author day for you.
Oh, nice.
There's some, stuff that goes along with it, and they seem to be really, really good. So shout out to them.
Yeah, their Reading Rabbit's kind of awesome. It's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
awesome little bookstore.
So ping them. But yeah, yes, you need to get a physical copy of your book before anybody else gets it. Before
I have a
you
I
want to
will
make
get a physical.
sure you want that out to the public.
I will get a physical copy.
There you go. There you go. Like I said, I get stoked, and for me, opening the box with the author's copy is just surreal. You know, I've now done it for two books, and it felt just as awesome the second time as it did the first time, holding, the physical copy of what I
Got
created in
excited
my
when I
hand.
opened Darkwind Paradox and Prime Numbers. I was excited for you. That
Well,
was
of course,
nice.
because they're awesome.
Well, the Darkwood Paradox is my favorite, but my
Yes,
name's in
I
it a
know.
lot, like a
And
lot.
your name's in the first one too.
Yeah, but not as much as the Darkwood Paradox.
Oh, and hey, and listen to the albums too that I created for those because I personally think they're pretty cool, especially the one for the Darkwind Paradox, Symmetry of Chaos. It follows the book really, really well. I love it. So give those a listen. They're out there, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music. They're free. I don't charge for those. They're completely out there. I just have fun creating them. But the Prime Numbers one was I think is cool. The Darkwind Paradox I just think is perfect for the book. But anyway, check those out. Check out our books. It's on our website. You will also find the link to our YouTube page, which Zig so often updates.
Yeah, go ahead and check that out, especially this one, because you can actually see the episodes of and see what we're talking about. Also, there is a playlist for my new book that I'm currently writing. It's called Tyrannosaurus Records because that's the
Oh,
name
you
of the
didn't tell
record
me it's
shop.
out there. I need to go
Yeah,
check that out.
yeah.
You did not tell me.
Well, each chapter is a different college radio song.
Oh,
In
that's
some
cool.
cases, there's two.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Um, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll go check that out because you had not told me that, so I'll check that out.
yeah. I was just kind of
Um,
soft dropping it, see if I got any comments on it.
yeah. On our website, you will also find the link to our merchandise page. If you wish to show off your nerdery murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something for that. You'll also find our Patreon if you wish to become a patron and help with the costs that are associated with this show. Both our merchandise and our patrons, they help us with our storage space, our website, everything we have to bring this show to you each and every week. It is not cheap, it is not free, but we do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. One thing you can do that is completely free and only takes a couple minutes of your time is please leave a 5-star review wherever you can. Trust me, the algorithms look for that, and it really helps other people find us that may be looking for the information we discuss. I would like to say one last thing. I meant to say at the beginning of the show, but I will say it now as we record. Today is Father's Day, so happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
My stupendous, wonderful, phenomenal daughter texted me while we were recording, so I was
Nice.
very excited about that. That's my kid. I love
Yeah.
her.
Me and the kids are
Um,
going to get some taco time when they get back from doing what they're doing today. So
cool, cool, man. I wish Miranda could be down here, but she lives quite a far away. But yeah, so happy Father's Day to all of our listeners out there that are fathers. I know when you get this episode, it's well past Father's Day, but no, we were thinking about you anyway.
happy Father's Day, motherfuckers.
And last but certainly not least, to our very good friend Chuck. You can go sleep now, Chuck.
Good night, Chuck.
Yeah, fuck you. You're not my friend anymore. Um, not Vic, Chuck. With that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murder.
Cue the music.